Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Purple Noon, a podcast. I am Stephanie Conti, and I am here with the user Dunkachino Gucciano. Would you like to elaborate on that?
We have
Dunkachino
to
Gucciano.
we have to celebrate Pacine's new movie.
Of course. And by the way, as you would probably suggest or assume, Dunkachino Gucciano is also known as Savanna Lanausse.
Hi.
So as we're recording this, the new Gucci House of Gucci trailer dropped last night. And
Ooh.
there are thoughts. I think there are good things, but also I'm not so sure with some things, as you did point out to me last night, and that would be the dialogue in the trailer was a little bit funky.
You know what it reminded me of?
What?
This is the same person that did Talented Mr. Ripley. And I'm getting a lot of vibes because
Really, it's the same writer?
it's the same director, I believe.
No, this is Ridley Scott.
Maybe it's the same writer then.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
which, by the way, was not expecting this from Ridley Scott. Maybe was expecting like a third Prometheus film and was kind of hoping for it. Was not expecting House of Gucci from him. I will say that.
I agree. I am wrong. It's not Talented Mr. Ripley, by the way. It's something else. I'm not thinking of the right movie. Oh, yeah. No, not that. It gave me American Hustle vibes.
Oh, for sure. It also the time period and everything like that. I also wonder if maybe the dialogue is attributed to kind of having to write a bunch of Italian speak American dialogue from the 80s. It may be a little
Yeah,
cliche.
I just could see this movie being very beautiful, but not like substance. I don't know how to explain it because the dialogue I was sitting there, I was just like, that's a little rough. It is a little rough. So I'm hoping it's just the trailer. Like, I'm really hoping they just picked the worst dialogue in the movie. It looks fantastic. I'm just a little nervous because Ridley Scott is also because now I know what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the person that did Thelma and Louise or produced it. He's done a lot of stuff, but I feel like his things are hit or miss.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of like, all right,
And now I'm looking at the writing credits and I'm a little nervoso, to be honest,
why?
because there's one guy named Roberto Bentiviega who has never, I don't think he's ever written anything before.
Oh, so
No,
they got some newbies.
no, he's never written anything before. It's based on a book by Sarah Gay Forden. And then also there's another writer credited named Becky Johnston. And homie hasn't written anything since 1997. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if it upholds. I mean, they did write. I haven't seen these movies, but I did hear good things about it. They did write 7 Years in Tibet, The Prince of Tides, and Under the Cherry Moon.
I've heard of the 7 years in Tibet one.
Okay. So other than that, maybe so, maybe not. I don't know. And so it's directed by Ridley Scott. But one of the things that I'm really surprised with, there's a couple things I'm surprised with. I'm surprised that, and I mean no disrespect, that Salma Hayek is in it.
Wasn't she also no, I'm thinking about Penelope Cruz. I don't really understand why they are casting I don't know how to say this in a nice way.
I could understand Lady Gaga because she's actually Italian and I'm from what I know, she does speak like pretty well Italian too.
They
But
did this with Penelope Cruz and Versace. They had a who is a Spanish woman essentially trying to do an Italian accent. It sounded very rough, so I'm hoping that she
well,
was
I'm
well
just
prepared for
I'm
this.
wondering why they picked Salma Hayek because she's not Italian, as far as I know. As far as I know, she's Spanish.
She's Mexican, so maybe it's like a Spanish character in this.
Maybe, but I'm looking at the casting list right now, and apparently there is a uh, Italian Romanian actress who's actually playing Sophia Loren in the movie.
Ah, let me see. I need to approve.
She's very pretty. Her name is Maddalena Chiena. There's even a guy named Reeve Carney who's playing Tom Ford. So there's a lot of people who are playing bigger names in this film. But I'm all for Al Pacino as Aldo Gucci. I mean, come on, that was great. I love Adam Driver, but I'm a little bit surprised.
Interesting choice, right? I could tell I could see obviously Al Pacino and even Jeremy Irons, but I was surprised that they chose Adam Driver for the leading role.
Yes. And then we have an actor named Jack Houston. And I'm wondering if he's related to Angelica.
Ooh, look it up.
Yes, the nephew of Angelica Houston, grandson of John Houston. So that
Interesting.
should be he's playing Domenico De Sol. But also, bro, I was very surprised at Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons looking like John Waters in this movie. I was like, "Oh crap. Sorry, Jeremy."
Who is he
Oh,
supposed
and
to
then
be? I don't understand. Like,
he's supposed to be Rodolfo Gucci, who I think is like the father of Maurizio Gucci, played by Adam Driver.
okay,
But then also, yo, what up with old man Jared Leto? He
that is
loves playing as old men.
that is hilarious. I saw him and I'm like, "Oh my god."
You know, and I was kind of looking at it, I'm like, this is a little shocking because they easily, like the way that they made him and look and everything like that. There's some actors who kind of look like him, like as an aged with a bigger nose. I'm like, they could have gotten, De Niro in here and just put a, don't even need to age him, just put a fake nose on him.
That they picked someone really young. And because it's interesting, Jeremy Irons and Al Pacino are, like, the appropriate age for the movie, and then they pick, like, 40-year-old Jared Leto to play what I think is a 70-year-old man.
And look, Jared Leto can do wonders. Let's never forget Mr. Nobody, his
Of
most underrated film
course.
where he actually plays an old man. So maybe it's just something that he really enjoys to do. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe I could see them maybe him auditioning for Maurizio and then they cast Adam Driver and then Leto's like, okay, cast me as Paolo Gucci, the old man,
I
you
will
know?
say, if we're being honest, Driver does look a little bit more Italian than Leto, even though he's not. Neither of them I don't think are Italian, but
For
it's the
sure.
dark features, that's
Well,
what
I
it is.
think a lot of them are like Euro mixes. Like I know Adam Driver is like Germany and like Turkish and things like that. Like he's a mix. I'm pretty sure Leto is a mix too.
Probably, yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so this should be very interesting. I don't want to give it too high hopes, but I'm very eager to watch it.
Yeah, I really hope it's good. Like, I really because with the cast like that and the money they must have put into this film, I really hope it's a good movie.
Oh my god, look at that. Robert De Niro was originally in talks to play Rodolfo Gucci. Of
Wow,
course.
you
I saw
called
it. I was
it.
like, why they make Leto kind of look like De Niro, like an ugly version of De Niro?
I
Dang,
love
that's
it.
crazy. Oh, and apparently Christian Bale was considered for the role of Adam Drivers. I don't think that would have worked. I think
Christian
Bale's
Bale's a little
a
old.
little too older, you know?
Yeah, he's a little old for that. Maybe he could have played one of the older guys, but
Okay, now you see this here. Now I'm even more curious as to why they hired Salma Hayek because Monica Bellucci was supposed to play her role.
oh
So
my
it is supposed to be
gosh.
someone who is of Italian descent. Maybe Salma Hayek is, but I've never known Salma Hayek to be Italian. I've always known her as a Spanish actress.
I'm like 98% sure she's Mexican. Like I'm 90% sure she's Mexican.
This is
So,
very interesting.
I mean,
Very, very interesting.
maybe she'll shock us. Like, really, maybe she's actually very talented. I don't know. But
Like, I
in
like her
terms of
as an actress.
accents,
I like her as yeah, but she does have a very, very thick accent. So I don't know how that's gonna translate and if she's gonna be able to kinda manipulate that into an Italian accent.
because I really hope, like, I'm saying I hope she's talented with accents. Maybe we just don't know because when I saw Penelope Cruz, I think it's Penelope Cruz in Versace. Let me like fact check that. But
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was her, yes.
the accent was not there. The accent was definitely Spanish. Like,
Mhm.
you could tell. So I really hope it's the situation. I also, like you said, I don't know how I feel about them not speaking Italian.
And then also Driver, I don't know if the mans can do an Italian accent.
I don't know either. I don't know if any of them can do an Italian accent.
I know Gaga
That's the
I'm confident in Gaga because, like I said, she is of Italian descent and does speak the language, so I'm sure of that. I don't know about Jeremy Irons. You know what this feels like? This feels like going back to the '60s when they made an Italian film called The Leopard, and they were like, "Oh, who are we gonna get for the lead? Burt Lancaster could speak Italian," you know? Like, meanwhile, he didn't. He had to learn it. So it's like, I'm wondering if they're doing that type of thing. Maybe their voices might be dubbed.
I
That could
hope
be a
not,
thing too.
because at
No,
that point, why not just train everybody to speak Italian? Because I think once you start making it less and less realistic, I mean, I get it. Look, it could be still good if they're speaking English, that's fine, I'm not, like, against that. But I feel like it takes a reality element out of the movie.
like, I think the best example, like, if you're gonna make a movie or film that is in English, even though the storyline is like the original event is not in English, I think the best thing you can do is just make sure that everyone has the same type of accent. For example, Chernobyl. That takes all place in Russia. No one does a Russian accent. Everyone has an English accent. But because everyone is speaking the same type of accent, it neutralizes. You kind of don't notice it as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I do agree with
So,
that.
maybe if they just keep it all the same, you know, maybe if you have, like, everyone doing more subtle Italian accents because it's not gonna bode well if, Adam Driver is like, "Hey, I'm Maurizio, blah, blah, blah," and then Jared Leto comes in like, "Hey!" Like, that's not gonna work. Like, that's gonna be too stark of a difference, you
Because
know?
Lady Gaga's accent is very subtle if you listen, because she speaks the most in the trailer, it's very subtle. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're right, like, I'm hoping I also don't know about Al Pacino, because Al Pacino is Italian, but he's American,
But,
and
like,
that's different. That's very
are we
different.
just gonna get New York Italian accents? Because that's not because if all of a sudden some people like, with Peace and Love, New York Italians, it's not full Italian.
No,
Because
we're
you
not.
say, instead of saying, mozzarella, you say mozzarella, that doesn't mean that
Gabagool! Yeah, no.
you're speaking Italian.
No.
So, I hope, that they at least adopt actual Italian dialogue rather than New York, like, "Oh, forget about it," that type of thing. Because
That
then
would
that's
be
gonna be cheesy.
ridiculous. Italy will ban us from making any other movie about anybody from Italy if that's
Like,
what they're
if
doing.
Paolo Gucci, played by Jared Leto, goes, "Ah, fangu," it's not gonna make much sense, you know?
I hope they actually I don't know where the Gucci family is from, but I hope they do the dialect, 'cause
Oh,
every
for
place in
sure.
Italy, like, they have to have some kind of dialect. So I really hope you're right. I really hope they just took one accent and gave it to everybody, 'cause that it's really gonna be a mess if they're all doing different kinds of Italian accents.
For sure, for sure. Um, alright, sorry about that. I had gotten a phone call and I was like, and trying
It's
to turn it
okay. I
off.
didn't notice.
So aside from the trailer, what new things have you been watching lately?
Let me think. I am I do have you ever seen Ted Lasso? I think we talked about this.
I've no, but I've heard a lot of good things. My friend Alyssa recommended it to me, and she was like, "It's such a good show." So I haven't seen it yet.
It's adorable, it's funny, it's everything you want. It's everything you want in life.
Could you compare it to something another TV show, or is it kinda like in of its own?
It's like a I'm trying to think. It's similar to a lot of British TV shows because it takes place in literally England, and it you can kind of compare it to a Miranda type show just without the live audience.
Oh, okay, cool. So
So
and
it's kinda like British TV.
oh, that's great. Okay, cool. I have to definitely check it out then. Yeah, because I've heard so much good things about it, but I'm not really a huge Jason Sudeikis fan, so that's
You're
why I've kind of
not
been like I think he's good in some roles, but like I've never like I like him on TV shows, like on SNL and on 30 Rock and things like that, but some of his movies I just never gravitated towards, you know?
No, and I understand that because he usually, like he's kinda gross in his movies, not gonna lie. He
Okay.
plays, like, gross role, but he plays a very wholesome role in Ted Lasso.
I will say, in reality, I do feel bad for the guy. I mean, could you imagine being married to Olivia Wilde, getting a divorce, and seeing her mugging up with Harry Styles at the beach?
He didn't deserve
He
that. He
no.
didn't nobody
No, like,
deserves
that's
that.
just, like You know, like, that's just, like, so
You just wanna
sad.
give him a hug. He's a sweet
For
dude.
sure, for sure. So I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did. So I was like, "You know what? No one's talking about it now, so let me give it a shot." I'm someone where someone's like, "You have to watch it yet," like, and everyone's talking about it all at once, it kinda loses its lackluster for me, and I don't know, I feel like it might sway my opinion because I feel like so many people like it, so I'm gonna try to like it.
Okay.
So, I wanted to give WandaVision a shot,
Ugh,
and I watched it, and I loved it, and I completely understand the hype around it.
isn't it so good?
Very good. Very, very good. Um, I wasn't expecting the whole twist in the middle, I won't specify in case someone hasn't seen WandaVision, they're like, "No, don't spoil it."
I mean, it's
But
been
it was
out for 7 months, so, like,
oh, dang, yeah, I was
if we're
really
being
late to
honest.
it.
No, 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 I'm just saying don't worry about too many, because the show is very, like, has a lot of spoilers, don't worry about it at this point. If you haven't seen it, that's your fault, everybody. But
You were given the time.
I really loved the show, I think it's one of the better, like, I think Marvel right now, their TV shows are where it's at.
Oh, for sure. Like, I was thoroughly impressed with it, and then also, like, the fact that they were able to go from a movie to TV show without any discrepancies in terms of the quality of it was fantastic. Sometimes, like, for example, when you compare DC movies to DC TV shows, there's a huge stark difference between, battle scenes and the overall quality of the show versus the movie. This actually maintained it. And now I understood why it cost like $25 million per episode. And I think a huge part of that went to the sets. I absolutely loved how literally every episode of WandaVision has a different set. I thought it was genius and how it matched the time and all the different references to pop culture and TV shows and everything. I thought it was really brilliant. I thought it was very, very good. I'm also trying to think what else. Seen that, and really just what we're about to talk about today is the most newer-ish things that I've seen. Have you seen anything else?
I do have a show recommendation to you, and I brought it up before. You gotta watch the show Barry on HBO.
I've seen episodes of it, but not continuously because, like, I'll usually, like, peep at it when my dad's watching it, but yeah, I have to watch it.
It is probably my top 5 favorite shows ever.
Oh, really?
Yes, I think it's brilliant. I really do. I think it's one of the funniest but complicated shows. Um, I'm trying to make Paula watch it, but I binged it. I think there's only 2 seasons right now. They're filming a 3rd at some point, but I binged it in like a week. It was so good. I love Bill Hader, and it's honestly, we know Bill Hader from SNL and It,
Mhm.
really, and then a few other comedy roles. He's a very good actor. After watching this, I'm like, okay, he needs to be like in films and stuff because he's very good.
Absolutely. Yeah, like, from what the glimpses that I've seen of the show, he's very talented. He's also one of the main writers for Barry too, so he's just overall, like, just a triple threat in terms of acting, writing, directing too. So, I think are they coming out with another season soon?
Yes, the show season 2 ended on a cliffhanger, and I'm patiently waiting.
Gotcha. Okay, okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, that I've seen or been watching. I always watch a lot of YouTube and stuff. I have yet to start Twin Peaks season 3. It's one of those shows where it's like, I've been sick the past 2 weeks, and that's just not a comfort show. At least season 3, and the reason why I say that is because I never finished season 3, so I know the first few episodes are gonna be like a long haul for me, so I
No, you
just
have to
haven't
be
been able to
mentally, like, in check for that show.
exactly,
I was
exactly.
it's very
So
unsettling, you don't wanna be sick if you're watching that.
for sure. And I think also, in terms of what I'll be watching in the future, aside from Twin Peaks season 3, will also be because we're going to talk about that soon. I was told for Disney Plus and everything going on, after watching WandaVision, I was suggested to check out Falcon and Winter Soldier, then do Black Widow the movie, and then do Loki.
Okay, I seen Black Widow, and we started Loki. Black Widow was very, very good.
Okay.
It's one of the better movies in my opinion, and Loki so far is pretty good. Pretty good. I very impressed. I don't know what's going on. I wasn't ever the biggest Marvel fan, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, just because whatever, it's fine. But I've been very impressed lately.
I do feel like early in the Marvel, like maybe phase 1, phase 2, there were a lot of I think it was at a time where they could pretty much afford like a miss. Now it's like nope, they will not release a miss or anything that's just not good. Like if you just see the quality within the past 3 years of Marvel, all of them have been great in my opinion.
Mhm.
But when you go back maybe 5, even like, 8 years ago or so, when you start looking at like early on, like some of the Iron Man movies, some of the Thor movies, and things like that, there are discrepancies. And, like, for example, like, I think the first Avengers is great. I think Endgame is fantastic. But do not talk to me about Age of Ultron. Do not talk to me about that movie. I don't like
I
it.
I'm not a fan of the Avengers.
Oh, really?
I think it's I think they're fun, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to, like, because I do think it's a fun movie and they're good. I'm just not like, I've always thought they were kind of corny.
I feel like they're more
Now I
kiddie-ish.
don't think that, obviously. Yeah, that's it. I think they're a lot and my personal opinion is with a lot of superheroes, like, Black Widow was PG-13, as it should have been, because
Yeah.
her story is very dark, and I do think looking back, yeah, I should have had the knowledge to know, like, okay, Endgame is kind of for kids.
I will say though, the ending to Endgame, like the Endgame part 1, yeah, it's Endgame part 1 and then part 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Part
was it? No, it was, it's Endgame and then there was something else. It's not part 1 and part 2, there's a different name, and I don't
ugh,
remember.
my Marvel memory.
Infinity War.
Thank you.
I didn't like Infinity War. Endgame was better.
Yeah, I could see that, I could see that. I just like
Infinity
the
War
ending.
confused me.
I like the dark endings. I just like how
Me
they
too.
ended
That's
where it was
exactly
like
why you like it. Don't tell me you just like the fact that it's a sad ending
well,
and
and I
it's
think also
tragic.
that's why I like WandaVision too.
Oh, WandaVision.
WandaVision's sad. WandaVision is sad as hell, but it's very good, and I like
He's
that. I
gonna come
like that.
back. I think he's gonna come back.
I mean, he's a robot, they can just that's just 3 Billy, 3 Billy that they can easily pop, that's Elon money, that they could
Definitely.
just remake it. But I do I like the darker stuff. I think that's and, like,
You're
I'm a
gonna
fan of
like Black Widow then. You're gonna like Black Widow.
okay, well, I know I'm gonna like it regardless because of David Harbour. I
Dude,
love him.
I just gotta tell you, he looks rough in this movie.
He
The
they
whole
make him look rough everywhere. Are
only the
you kidding
first
me?
20 minutes of the movie, he looks good, and then the rest of the movie
Dude, in Stranger Things, they gave this man pants that were 2 sizes too tight to accentuate his size, and he's not that big.
he's
He's not
not.
that big. I will say though, he did an interview, and they were like, it was like I forgot. It was like a sit down question, and he was answering like common Google question, and one of the question was, "What what is David Harbour's size?" He was like, "My size is 2, as in too big." And Winona Ryder's like, "Stop it. Stop being so rude about yourself." He's like, "It's true." Like, I feel bad for the dude. They always put him in, like, clothes like, even just from the trailer for Black Widow, you could tell his pants are way too small on the guy.
Okay, there's a reason for that, though. I will say they didn't do that to but there is a reason why he wears really tight clothes, especially towards the middle of the movie.
But I feel like everyone forgets that he was Hellboy, and he was absolutely yoked for Hellboy.
But he's still, like, he's not fat. He's really not, and he's still pretty built. He
No, and
just
that's why I think they just put him in small, tiny clothes to just make him look like it?
Yeah.
So, I'm really eager to see that one. That one looked really good. Um, and have it before we get on to actually talk about the movie we're gonna review, did you hear about the lawsuit that Scarlett Johansson is doing
Team
against
ScarJo.
honestly, and for those of you who don't know, Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney because essentially it was not in her contract that was made a few years ago for Black Widow about any notion of Disney Plus sales. And keep in mind, in order to watch, Black Widow on Disney Plus, you have to pay an additional $30
Yeah.
on top of what you're already paying monthly. And Disney came out or someone crunched the numbers and essentially Disney's made like close to $30 million just from their Disney Plus sales for the movie. And none of the actors, none of the crew, no one who would receive residuals of any type is getting that from the Disney Plus streaming service, which it's not fair, in my opinion, it's not.
It's just someone made a really good point on Twitter about how if Disney's gonna do this to their biggest actress, how are they gonna treat the employees? How are they gonna treat, like, people that can't make this noise? So I agree with that, it's just and I also think Disney, the whole statement they made, I don't know if you saw it, it's kind of manipulative
Yeah,
because
it's
they were
very
like,
like, "Oh, yeah, she's gonna be paid, blah, blah, blah," but they didn't specify it, they didn't specify that they
well,
messed
they
up,
were
they
like,
didn't do.
this is wrong because she's exploiting the horrible COVID-19 crisis that we couldn't see." It's like, "Yes, you could."
Oh, I didn't see that. The
Yeah.
statement I heard was that Disney was saying that she was compensated, but even though she wasn't.
No, they made a statement at first talking about how, like, Scarlett Johansson there's no merit to this lawsuit and that she, like, essentially is exploiting COVID-19, which I think is very manipulative. Because
Mhm.
Disney knew at one point what they were gonna do, and they could have
Yeah.
easily compensated every actor for the sales they were gonna make from Disney
And
Plus.
you know what? She probably already has made a killing from
Oh,
the release of
absolutely.
it in the movies and stuff, but here's the thing, what a lot of people don't realize is with actors and actresses, all that money doesn't go in their pocket. Like, honestly, realistically, because you have to think about, okay, this person, this actor, actress has to do promos. Not all the time are they paid for by the production. Sometimes it has to come out of their own pocket, which is then put into the budget for the movie. And sometimes, if it's not going to be covered by them, they'll go, okay, we'll add this onto your paycheck essentially. They have to pay for their makeup artists. They have to pay their lawyers. They have to pay their managers. They have to pay their, babies, everything. And like in reality, if let's say an actress is making $1 million, right? She gets $1 million contract. Realistically, she's probably only keeping about 100 to $200,000, and the rest is just going to pay everyone else who's on her team.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where I can see and understand like why people fight for no their money and things like that because in reality for someone like Scarlett Johansson, she may be getting 20 million, but she might have to pay a team of, a team and half that money's gone. Whether it be like I said,
Yeah.
lawyers, managers, all you have to pay them, they're not just hired, as you go, you keep them on your team for as long as you need.
I agree, and I think Disney's just kind of scamming her out of something at this point. I think they're just being petty.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And even just like the cost of being an actor and actress and having to keep up your appearance, having to hire because you can't be in Hollywood without subject to ridicule. You can't just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to hire a private trainer and let myself go a little bit." That can't
But it's
happen
also
unless you
like
want to
at the end
subject
of the
yourself
day,
to massive
sh
bullying.
at the end of the day, she's entitled to that money. That's what really this is about. Like, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, she should have gotten some of that money.
Absolutely. And I think also not only that, but if they knew that they were going to at least predict that they were going to make an extra 30 million off of, let's say they did meet, their goals or just under their goals for,
Right.
you know, theater release. And then they meet their end goal. Like I honestly think that they should also reconsider maybe giving even if it's an extra $100 to all like the little people who helped make the movie too.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, like, Disney knows they can do that, but they are not. Because,
Mhm.
"Oh, it wasn't in contract, we couldn't see this coming with COVID," and, y they could always do the right thing, but Disney is Disney, unfortunately.
For sure. For sure. But yeah, hopefully with this new lawsuit and everything, hopefully it can prevent, other companies like Universal or Lionsgate from doing this
Oh,
same
yeah,
type
being
of stuff.
sneaky. Of course. Agreed.
All right, you ready to talk about Kingdom, Ashin of the North?
Absolutely.
All right. So, if you've listened to our podcast before, you know a few episodes ago, we actually talked about the TV show Kingdom, not Rik Hospitalo. Do not get confused with the Denmark TV show. We're talking about the Korean drama Kingdom that is available on Netflix. Recently, they're coming out with a season 3, but before season 3, end of season 2, they ended up teasing a character. And now they released a movie, which is kind of what's now being called a sidequel, kind of prequel, kind of sequel, but kind of also a side story. So the
Right.
sidequel is called Kingdom Ashen of the North. And just like the TV show, it is also available on Netflix. And Ashen of the North is about tragedy, betrayal, and a mysterious discovery fuel a woman's vengeance for the loss of her tribe and family in a special episode of Kingdom. Now, I'll label it as a movie because it is an hour and a half. So I feel like it's okay to label it as a movie. But you have Jun Ji Hoon as Ashen, and a lot of other smaller characters. The only other, I believe, there's no other reoccurring character from the original show
No.
except for Ashen, played by Jun Ji Hoon.
Right.
So I'm not going to go through for that reason. I'm not going to go through the list of actors and actresses because one, I do not want to botch a bunch of names, but two, they're not faces that we're going to be seeing in season 3 of Kingdom. So
Right.
with that being said, Savannah, what are your thoughts of Ashen of the North? And do you who do you recommend this for? Do you recommend this for someone who's seen season 1 at least, or do you think anyone can watch the movie?
Honestly, I really think anybody could watch this, and I think that's the reason I liked it so much is because you don't need a lot of it is a prequel, sidequel, whatever you wanna call it, so you don't need to necessarily watch the show. I mean, the show gives you more context, obviously, but I
Mhm.
really liked it because they made it kind of for everybody. In fact, if you wanna start watching the show, you could also start with this. It's very there's a lot of different ways you can go with it, but the quality of this was amazing. They
Mhm.
did not sometimes with prequel sequels, they kind of the quality withers a little bit, but they really stepped it up. The story was fantastic, it made sense. It wasn't just thrown together, the acting was fantastic. I would recommend this to everybody. I thought it was a very impressive move from Kingdom.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think for optimal viewing, I think you should watch. I mean, anyone can and they can
Yeah,
understand, but for optimal viewing and for understanding, because this show is about essentially a zombie apocalypse type of show. I think in order to fully understand the the zombies and everything like that in this
sure.
movie, I think maybe even just watching the first 2 episodes would give you kind of a clear understanding, or even like I think you can either watch this as a prequel to the entire show, you can
Yeah,
watch this before season 2, after season 2. I really maybe I would just say, in order to answer more questions, maybe after season 1. But
sure.
honestly, like, I totally agree with you. One of the beauty of this film is that whether or not you're attached to the show, you can watch this and enjoy it. And I gotta say, one thing that I am loving with Korean dramas like this and like the actual show Kingdom, they know how to write female characters like
Ah,
no other.
gorgeous. It
Like
was gorgeous. It was
it
realistic. It wasn't like out of like she was very the main character, very dimensional, very complex. It's great.
absolutely. And so ultimately, I think we can both agree before getting into the spoiler parts, if you haven't seen it, go watch it and go watch the show too. Just watch it all. Just watch it
Yes.
all.
Oh,
It's
no,
all
no,
worth
it's
it.
perfect. It's all great.
I wasn't know what to expecting because when season 2 ends, and like I said, this is spoiler parts, we kind of see, because I rewatched the end of season 2 just to kind of see where the show left off and where this
Yeah.
begins. So end of season 2, we see, the whole gang for the original kingdom, and they're walking into this kind of abandoned village type area, and a bunch of zombies come running out to them. But the zombies all have bells on them, and then we kind of see like this crazy, like, I'll say house where there's blood everywhere, there's body parts all over the floor, and we just see Ashen of the North. And we do not know anything about her except this. We only just see her covered in, like, blood and like just being surrounded by body parts, zombies and boxes and things like that. So
Yeah.
we really had no idea who she was, where this was going to go, and why she was going to be introduced into season 3 and essentially be part of a new plot line.
Yeah.
And they did it perfectly, because at first when I ended season 2, I was like, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to bring back the zombie apocalypse essentially. I don't know how they're going to bring that, especially right now when it seems like all the zombies are dead. So I
Yeah.
wasn't sure where it was going to go. But this story and how it starts from Ashen as a child to growing up was incredible. We got to talk about the writing. So, in terms of writing, what particular attributes of Ashen did you like the most? Like whether it be part of her character, of her storyline, like what were some of your favorite bits?
I think the whole because this basically towards the end, Ashen is taking revenge, and I think we've seen that a lot in women. And I think the problem that we see when it comes to revenge stories in women, it's all the same. It's
Mhm.
all like a woman of scorn. It's all like, "Oh, I've gone crazy." And I think the one thing they did good here is kind of explain her journey and not make her this caricature of like, "I gotta you know what I mean? I think she was very complex. I think she had a lot of emotions, and I think they also took the time to explain what happened when she was a child.
Mhm.
Like, almost more than half of the movie is just her as a child.
And I think it was important because it also explained a lot of, because there's three different, I'll say, tribes or groups that are very
Right.
important to know. There's the people of her village. There's this kind of secret subgroup of her village that are kind of like not outliers, but kind of like I'm trying to think of the word rebels, kind of like rebels of her village, but they're all kind of in secret. They have like the little thing, like they have I think it's like a burn mark or a tattoo on the top of their right hands and things
Mhm.
like that. And then essentially you have the invading Japanese, because at the time this was when Korea was continuously being invaded by the Japanese. And then also you have essentially like northern Korean government, a part of and it's all set within like the Joseon area of Korea.
Mhm.
So, and I would have to say this takes, I believe, in like the 1600s of Korea. But you
Yeah.
have those four groups, and the way that they kind of interact and show how these groups are honestly brilliant because the way that they're able to not only deceive the character Ashen as to the reality of the truth, but also is fantastic of how to deceive the audience. Because there is kind of a big reveal where Ashen thinks that this subgroup, a part of her village, is responsible for the burning of her village.
Yeah.
When in case it's not that. And then they were shifting blame. Oh, maybe it could have been the Japanese, blah, blah, blah. And she ends up finding out that the village who takes her in after her village is burnt to the ground, essentially. And she sees like it's a horrific depiction
Yeah.
because she sees her parents hung, or at least her mother and her sister and her brother hung on these pillars and things like that. And she ends up finding out that the village that takes her in and things like that that she has to work for is like she sleeps with pigs and she's responsible for doing all their laundry and stuff like that. She ends up finding out that that village is not protecting her, but like not protecting her because they care about her, but they're protecting her from the truth, which is that they're responsible for the entire village being slain.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
mean, yeah.
I was just going to say really, really complex. Like there's a lot of complexity within an hour and a half movie, which I enjoy thoroughly.
They really made her a product of her environment, and again, I think with women, we don't really see that a lot. We see, like, one catastrophic event
Hmm.
with girls, and then they go on a tangent, but I think they really took her time and developed her personality and develop what she does in the end, because she is completely justified, and she grows into the person she becomes essentially because of what's going on, and I like that. I think it was very good writing for Ashen, and I think they did her justice.
Yeah, and I'm really loving the idea of making these almost, if you notice, like the two strongest female leads within Kingdom and this one, Ashen of the North, is that what makes them so eerie, so creepy, so extreme is the fact that they're such quiet characters.
Yeah.
Everything, and it adds like a really creepy element to it because it's almost like everything she does is premeditated. And it is like she plots out this whole, you know, after the reveal of her father, which we'll get into soon, she essentially takes revenge on a full entire village and she single-handedly dismantles a village. And even in the end, the way the movie ends is her coming in contact with, this Japanese raiders and her single-handedly trying to take on like a group of 15 men on horses with weapons and everything. And
Mhm.
she doesn't scream, she doesn't yell, she doesn't do anything of that. She just is lasered in and focused, and it makes it so creepy, but so riveting too.
Absolutely. I think the also just the fact that the plot does focus on her is very good. Like there were a lot of different characters in the show. Like, she sees a lot of people, the villagers, but she is really the star of it. Like she really is the contributing factor of what's going on. And she has a lot to do with what's going on in Kingdom itself.
Mhm.
So I think it was a good call just to focus on this character.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I do feel like if maybe they had taken, I feel like if they had taken the story, cut it up, and then added it to season 3 and sprinkled it through, it wouldn't have been as impactful. It wouldn't have been as good. It also would have been really hard to explain why the characters from Kingdom would want to connect with Ashen of the North. But it all this movie helps everything make sense
Yeah.
and get we fully and like it even goes, oh crap, this is where we're going to lead to for the next season. And it's even honestly more horrifying than the first two, because the first two you have a zombie apocalypse out of control. Now you have the zombie apocalypse being in control by someone. And
Yes.
we still, even though overall she does have her reasons for doing what she did, we still have a little bit of a hard time detecting her moralities and what now she's going to do. We don't know if
Exactly.
she's going
Yes.
to be the scorned woman who just keeps getting revenge and world domination, or we don't know if she's just kind of building a private army for something else, for launching another attack or anything like that. Those are the things we don't know that I'm really eager to see for season 3.
But I'm glad they didn't, like, allude to anything either because, yeah, we know why she's doing it and she's justified, but we don't actually know her personality now because she kind of unleashed hell,
Mhm.
and it doesn't seem like she has any intention of holding back anymore, of, like, putting this away or cleaning it up.
Yeah.
I think from especially the end of season 2, we see, like, "No, no, she's gonna keep doing this. Okay."
Mhm.
So, it's very interesting. I like it. I like that we don't know.
And I think before we start talking about the ending and the reveal with her father and stuff like that, I definitely think we should talk about the intro with the tiger and the deer. And I must commend Netflix Korea because they did a fantastic job doing the special effects and the
Oh,
design
yeah, it's
for
beautiful.
these animals and how realistic they look. I mean, the idea, and also like the idea of taking a zombie tiger and making it realistic and making it come to life, it was brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
And how it hunted and how it did, like, and even like the fact where um, we see the deer eat the special plant and it has the eggs underneath and then it turns. And then we see the tiger eat the deer, but the
Mm.
deer is still biting back at the tiger even though like half its throat is ripped out, and everything was just so crazy to watch. It's just something that you would never see something like that on Animal Planet unless a tiger was eating an animal with rabies, which I don't think that's been caught on camera yet.
Yeah.
So it was really crazy, and just the whole idea of like, the myth of this tiger and the fact that it starts with like there's a tiger up in the mountains that has been eating everyone who goes and finds it. And I thought that was brilliant. It added a really great like sense of Korean lore to it while also just adding for a really, really interesting story.
Absolutely.
And I did think maybe because of that, a little bit of it was slow in the beginning.
It was a little you had to kinda drudge through
That
it.
would be a con, I would say, but I would probably say once the whole tiger hunting begins, that's when we really start picking up speed.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of how they teased the flower and called it like wild ginseng, and how it was kind of framed in a child's mind and where she was coming from. Like, they're saying there's wild ginseng up in the mountains that can help with mom, and her venturing up all alone. Meanwhile, there's a killer zombie tiger,
Yeah.
it's just wild and everything. And yeah, it was just really great. But yeah, so once she's essentially taken in by the people who killed her father, but she doesn't know that yet. She trains and trains and trains and trains. And one of the things that I think was so gruesome, so hard to watch, but a big catalyst for the character was when she finds her father.
Oh my god, I
That
know.
I was not
I
expecting.
know.
I had assumed that the father was also killed in the village when the village was, like, just raided, but essentially it's revealed that her father had been kidnapped by, I believe it was the government, not the Japanese, if I'm correct, correct?
I believe you're right, yeah.
And but essentially they amputate all of his limbs and they just torture him. And
It was
Ashen,
a scene, it
it
was
it
a
was very
scene.
hard to watch, and Ashen finds him and he begs her to kill him. And it's a very hard to watch scene, and we get some sense of emotion from her because obviously she begins to sob and stuff like that, and it's just this heartbreaking scene because as she's holding her father, she slices his throat and everything. It's so hard to watch, but you can instantly see, like, the moment she pulls the knife away from her father, that she has this war path set for her.
Yeah,
And
definitely, last straw.
I would have never thought, and one of the there was a scene in here that made me just go, "Oh my god," out loud, was because I had a feeling that she was going to, start bringing people back to life. I did not know she had already done it as a child when her parents
Yeah.
had passed. Like, when they just showed the little blip of her as a child cutting the foreheads of her parents and sticking in the plant so they could come back to life. And then also being a kid and just having to put, like, here's my zombified mother, father, brother, sister, things like that. Now I have to put them in a yurt and I have to chain them. And like, all things like that was so crazy, but so dark, and it just made for an even more impactful ending when she brings them dinner, essentially, and it's like, "I can't feed you guys no longer. I'm gonna feed you delicious foods," and then gives, essentially, like, one of the leaders from, like, the local government.
It was very dark. It got very
And
dark.
also she does the same thing to him what they did to her father. She amputates him.
Yeah.
And then also that whole ending, she just single-handedly takes down a village, was incredible. And at first my boyfriend and I were like, how does this make sense? Blah blah blah. But I was happy that they reminded us that it takes 2 hours for the zombies to come back. So it would make sense if she was just quietly going throughout the village, killing everyone, sticking the flower in their forehead, would move on, and then 2 hours later, now all of a sudden this village is covered head to toe with
Yeah.
zombies.
Yeah. Yeah. It did make sense, and, like you said, I'm glad they explained it because it would've been a plot hole, and it would've been a pretty big one.
Absolutely, and I've said it before, the pathology, to be a little science nerd here, of how the plant works and how the zombie thing spreads and everything is genius, because it does make sense for, so in compared, and in case anyone saw this and had any questions about it, I think I have the understanding of the pathology of the disease. Essentially, in Ashen of the North, when someone gets bit by the tiger, they do not turn into a zombie because that is like the first generation strand of the disease. Zombie bites only start turning other people into zombies after the first time a human consumes the flesh of someone who's been infected.
Right.
Which is genius that now you have freaking variants of, like, a zombie disease and how it works and things like that and how it's cured and stuff. I honestly think that they really did a great job researching and trying to figure out, like, the whole pathology of this zombie disease, and it's very eerily realistic. It takes a lot of looks at, like, mad cow disease, a lot of things from rabies, some things of, like, protozoans from Africa. Like, they did a
Yeah.
really solid job making the actual disease and making sense of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think when movies take the time because I think it would have been easy for them to just make something up. It really
Mhm,
would have because at the end of the day, this is zombies. Like, they didn't have to go crazy. But I think when movies take the time to explain things like that, it just adds so much more. It really do.
mhm,
I think about movies that explain ti I always give this example, and everybody thinks it's stupid, but I give the example of Back to the Future because they made the concept of time travel easy enough for kids to get it.
mhm.
And obviously time travel isn't real and we all know that. And
As
it
far as
probably
we know.
oh yeah. for sure. But they made the concept made sense and simple enough for us to understand it. This has actual, like you were saying, pathology, and it does make sense and it adds more to the movie. And then most of us, if I honestly have had to watch it a few times to understand, I will admit. And I did
Mhm.
look some stuff up because at first I was like, I don't get it. But once you do get it, it does make sense. And I really like that when shows and movies take the time to explain to you the different concepts going on in their show, especially when it has to do with science and health and outbreaks. Because that's really, especially in zombie movies, you'd think that's where it would lie. Like, like the
Yeah, like,
science
I
of
don't
it.
think in Walking Dead they've ever explained. I the only thing I remember was, like, in season 1 and 2, they were like, "We gotta get to the CDC," and no one was there, and no one had any answers, you know? It was just like everyone was dead at the CDC, you know?
Yeah,
And it
and
was
that's
like
like the easy way out. And technically, like, yeah, like I guess you could do that, but it would have
they
been a
really
lot
gave up
better.
quickly for a cure, didn't they? In Walking Dead, they were like, "All the scientists are dead, we're screwed, we're living like this forever," you know?
That's really grim too. Like, I don't know if I was in that situation, what are you gonna live for? What are you gonna
Are
live
you
for?
kidding me? If I had found the CDC, like, during a zombie apocalypse, I'd be living there. I'd be taking all the labs and stuff. I probably would just worsen it because I'd probably mix, like, not knowingly, I'd be like, "What's this and what's this?" And I would probably create, like, viral bird flu or on, like, a level 10 or
I
something like
don't
that.
think I'd want to live at that point though.
Very true.
Like,
Very
what are you gonna
true.
spend the rest of your life just like defending yourself from zombies?
Nah, what am I gonna be, an 80-year-old with a machete just hacking away? Nah, I can't. I can't.
Forget it. Forget it. At least this movie, there's a little bit they figured some stuff out. You can stop it, you know?
For sure. And you could probably run away from it, you just gotta be in, like, a high tower. You know, or in water.
Yeah,
Take a
go
little
to a
cruise
different
ship out, you
country.
know?
Just
Go
set the whole country on
Royal
fire.
Caribbean. But yeah, like, I really appreciate this. I think one of the only other shows, aside from, like, in terms of movies that explain concept like this really well, like you said, Back to the Future, but also Breaking Bad. Everyone felt like they could start making meth in their
Oh,
room from
yeah.
after watching Breaking Bad, you know? Everyone just felt like that, and also just, like, the little things and stuff that they did in Breaking Bad, a lot of little things, like, you
Yeah.
know, whether it be, like, the symbols, BR and V are part of meth, that's why I love Breaking Bad," or, you know, things like that. I feel like they did add that level of dedication into the show, which is, of course, amazing, fantastic, and just really smart on their part.
It's only just gonna add to the show. It really is. It's only just gonna add.
Absolutely. Even if no one, even if 99% of the population is not going to understand it, there's going to be that one nerd that points it out, posts it on Reddit or Tumblr, and everyone gets to enjoy the little morsel.
We got Google. We could figure it
Of
out.
course, of course. Like, I will never forget, like, just speaking about Breaking Bad, in the first episode, I'm sorry, this is random. I just like to point out the genius of, like, adding little quips and stuff to shows. There's actually where, Walter White is talking to his students and he's talking about chemistry. And essentially he goes, "Oh, like life, it's life, death, decay." And he does this whole speech. And without realizing it, it's actually the entire plot line to the show.
Ugh,
Like,
amazing.
I love things like that. Like, and I love the fact, like I said, the whole pathology, how they added this, and then also the fact that they also, from what I've seen, I never like a lot of people praise the show for being pretty historically accurate. Of course,
Mhm.
the zombie apocalypse we
No, well,
cannot
yeah.
is negligible, but the clothing and the settings and everything like that. I've heard nothing. I'm no, Joseon Kingdom. I'm
Right.
no expert on that, but from what I've heard, a lot of people praise it for being highly historically accurate with
Sure.
costuming, sets, and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. I could see that.
So overall, I guess so. If there was a, let's say, if this was made into a DVD, would you get it? Would you keep it? And also, what is your rating for the film?
Wait,
Oh,
wait,
what,
wait,
what,
wait,
what, what,
wait.
what?
Slow it up. Slow back it up. Back it up. We
Okay,
gotta
okay.
talk about the ending.
Oh yeah,
We missed the best part. For me, that was like that's all I needed.
the ending was morbid AF.
I mean, but like she's responsible for everything at this point.
Yeah,
She like spoiler alert, she's the reason why this all happened. I mean, we all know that,
Yeah,
but
she
specifically
is
to that family.
responsible.
Yeah,
But it
specifically.
also makes sense how it ties in with the First Kingdom. It's not like, "Oh, there's this, I've heard rumors about a weird woman in the North
Yeah.
playing around with puppets," it's not like that, It's
You
like,
say puppets?
controlling the zombies and things
That's
like that.
funny. No,
But,
no,
like,
yeah.
it actually, like, made sense. Now we understood why maybe the original people from Kingdom got wind of her, because she is the one responsible for the entire plot line for the first season, which is bringing back the king.
I love it.
So good. And then also just the the little yurt that she has with her family and the villagers. And it was also really creepy how they did it, because we see her walking back into her old village. Everyone is alive and everyone's going, Ashen, Ashen. And then it crosses over into this bleak. Everyone has been turned into a zombie by her own accord. And she is essentially has them all change. And it's really creepy because she's not scared of them. She still views them as her family, just more like an animalistic pet, if you will. She's just like, "I will feed you delicious foods from now." And they're all chained in the corner waiting to kill her and attack her.
And I think there's a lot of interesting themes about grief.
Mhm.
I think they did a good job with tying her grief into like, she brought back her entire village. And
Yeah.
a lot of that I think is just her being traumatized and wanting to have what she had back before and just essentially pretending that this is her family and these are her people.
Yeah.
But it's really just animals or corpse. Like it's just a not healthy. She's definitely
No,
losing
she's
it
she
mentally.
like I said, it's so crazy because she's like, "I will only bring you the best of the finest feast."
No,
And
yeah,
they're just
she's
like, "Bleh,"
yeah.
just waiting to rip her throat out, and she can easily turn off. Like, you can kind of see this. And I think what makes so much sense for her being quiet is you kind of see this dissociation factor kind of wave over her
Yeah,
and
yeah.
being like, "I will feed you. I will feed you well." And they're just like, "Hey," like in the corner, you
I
know,
like your noises.
"Ee." Well, I don't want to do like the full zombie noise and
No, I
just
like
shatter
it.
someone's eardrum,
It's
whoever's
it's
maybe listening.
it's good.
Thank you. Just
I
my
enjoy
"Wee."
it.
But yeah, like I really thought it was brilliant. It made it creepy and it gets you hyped up for season 3, which I did look up, and sadly it may not come out until next year just due to
Oof.
COVID. I mean, it makes sense too. You have a bunch of people during a pandemic going free and spitting up blood, fake blood, and doing all the things around and
That's
stuff.
true, that's
That's kind of
true.
gross. Already in a pandemic, you can't. And also keep in mind too, when they have all that makeup on, you can't really put a mask on them in between filming,
Yeah, you're right.
or else they're just gonna have like a little ring around their lips of just regular flesh and then the fake dead flesh all around them.
Yeah. No, you're right, you're
So I
right.
can understand why they'll probably take their time, filming essentially this next season. But I still think, and I really hope that they do. I wouldn't hate to see them rush it and try to do it with special effects, because one of the charms of the TV show is that majority of things are done without special effects, or at least it looks like it is.
No,
So I
yeah,
hope they
definitely.
maintain that.
Agreed, agreed.
Okay, so now back to the DVD question and your rating.
I
What
think
are your
I would
thoughts?
own it just because I really enjoyed it. The only thing I will say is it is very morbid. It's not a fun time. You're gonna feel a little sad at the end of it.
It will get you hyped though. It's
Yeah,
like, oh dang, but season 3.
yeah. I would own it. I like the show and I like this movie. I want to give it 8.9 out of 10.
Okay. And why specifically 8.9? I can
It,
understand the pacing in the beginning and things like that. And I'm not fighting it for it to be a 10. I'm just curious as to what you think your faults are for the movie.
it really is the pacing because there, even in the beginning, even some points in between, I just kind of found myself like when she's talking to people, it could have sped up a little bit at
Mhm.
one point. And again, the rewatchability for me, because I think where this is going to fault a little bit is after season 3. I
Yeah.
don't see myself watching this too much after the set third season, possibly fourth season comes out. You know what I mean? Because it's already like this, like you're saying, this is getting you hyped for the next season. This is like a sneak peek, super cool. But I don't see myself watching it only if I rewatch the entire series.
That's totally fair. I think
Nope.
if they had made would I buy this DVD, like, if they made this movie on its own? Probably not. If it was in a bundle with Kingdom, like the show, and, like, they did a
Exactly.
full thing, hell yeah. I'll
Yeah.
pay $50 for that. You listening? Korea, I'll pay 50. Just give it English subtitles. Um, so yeah, like, I definitely would love to own it in, like, collection with the actual show.
Right.
Um, I would probably give it I wanna say I'll go one a little bit lower than you. I feeling 8.8, and the reason why is because I agree
Ah,
with the pacing and everything. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the writing is brilliant, but one I will say it is a little bit hard, and this is something that I had to rewatch some scenes for, to determine the different groups.
okay, that's a good point.
It's hard to just sanction off because, you know, especially even more so if this is your first time watching Kingdom, like, any type of, episode or anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit hard to dissect each group, and even when that twist is revealed, it's still kind of hard to pinpoint who's the real enemy, you know? It really takes until after, like, we see her father, and then we're able to be like, "Ah, she's getting revenge for her father, then these people also did the like, it's a little bit more harder to deduce
Sure.
because I think there is a little bit of a lack of dialogue, and I think maybe that
Right.
harms it a little bit in terms of the character Ashen. I think the scenes of her not having a lot of dialogue work very well, like in the ending. But also her maybe in the beginning and middle, she could have had a little bit of dialogue, a little bit more to just kind of elaborate on what was going on in the betrayal and things like that. Or
Okay.
at least if it wasn't going to be from Ashen, to it to be from her father.
That's a good point. I agree.
So that's why. I think it's brilliant though in terms of writing. It was just that little and maybe it easily could be a type of loss in translation type of issue where maybe in Korean it translates to a lot more easier, but in terms of just solely depending on English subtitles, it's a little bit of a rough translation.
I agree. I agree. I think there could have been more dialogue for
Mhm.
sure.
For surezies. All right, so next time you guys will be hearing us I think we were originally gonna do Twin Peaks, but I think we're gonna have to push that off a little bit more just because I have to watch the last season, and that's a lot of hours of work. So I think next time you guys will hear from us, we're actually gonna be talking about the Three Colors trilogy.
Woo, I'm excited.
That's gonna be fun. That is for sure is gonna be a lot of fun. And as always, thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much to Sensei David and Homeboy James. And if you're like, well, who are those people? Those are people who support us, who have been longtime fans of us, and they contribute to our Patreon. And if you would like a little cool nickname or a little shout out every episode, check out our Patreon in the link below. And yeah, just kind of just browse around, do what you will. You feeling lucky? Give a little dollar. You feeling even
Yeah.
more lucky? Give 1,000. That's an option. We don't expect it. Times are tough, but dang, you got the money, go for it, you know?
Why not? Support your local film people. Like
Yes, film people. Women.
women, oh my gosh.
Yes, we are those. We are some of those.
Like film and women, you're doing a good thing for society.
Never heard of her until now. So but also, of course, you don't have to pay.
No,
If you
we're
wanna
just
just be able to support the channel in any way, give a like on the video if you're listening to this on YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, and also just follow around on Anchor, on Spotify,
yeah, share our
Audemic Media,
page.
all of those things and whatnot. And we also have and also, if you wanna just be reminded, our socials are down below, Instagram, TikTok, and stuff. And we usually post about when we're going to talk about, like, on the next episode and things like that. So be sure to check those out. And until next time, we will be talking about three colors red, white, and blue. And we will see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.